Hi, I'm Patricia. I live in a small space attached to my in-laws' house with my husband Willie. While I stay in this small area alone, Willie lives in the main house with his parents. Willie's grandfather originally built this small space as a personal getaway, but I've turned it into a cozy living area, about the size of a regular room. Before this, I lived in a regular apartment for the first 4 years of our marriage. Willie's parents, who were very close to him, suddenly wanted him to move back in with them. Seeing how much they wanted him there and how emotional they were, Willie felt he should go back. This took me by surprise and made me feel a bit overwhelmed. Willie and I met at work, where he started as my junior. We dated for 4 years while he was living with his parents, which made him miss home a lot. Even though he had his own place after we got married, his upbringing, where he was very pampered and didn't do much around the house, made him want to return to the comfort of his parents' home. When I suggested that we share the household chores, Willie seemed unsure and admitted he had never really done them before. I hoped we could split the chores equally, but Willie never really wanted to help. Every time I tried to involve him, he would act interested for a short time, then quickly lose interest and say, "This isn't for me, Patricia. You're better at it. You should just keep doing it." We both worked full-time, but since I had a higher position at work, I felt a stronger need to split the chores. Trying to get Willie to help often ended up being more tiring than just doing everything myself. Eventually, I found it easier to handle all the tasks on my own. Things began to shift when I started working from home. Willie was surprised to see me at home every day and seemed to adjust to this change. However, over time, it became clear that he didn't fully understand what working from home really meant. A few years into working from home, Willie's parents suddenly visited us and said they wanted to live closer to him. Seeing their emotional reaction made me feel alone and unsure about what to do. To support Willie's wish to be near his parents, we decided to move into their house. Throughout our relationship, Willie had always chosen places close to his parents, whether it was for renting an apartment or picking a job for me. Since I was working remotely, where we lived wasn't as important, but Willie's choices often meant we had to move and sometimes even leave our jobs. When we moved into his parents' home, Willie's mother thanked me, saying, "Thank you for taking care of Willie all this time. From now on, I will take good care of him, Patricia. You handle everything else." At first, I thought this meant I'd be free from taking care of Willie, but I soon realized her real plan. She started taking care of Willie's specific needs, making special meals for him, washing and ironing only his clothes, keeping his shoes and belongings clean, and buying things just for him. Meanwhile, all the other household chores, like cooking and laundry for everyone else, became my responsibility. Even though I was working full-time, I ended up handling not just our daily chores, but also keeping the larger family home clean. This new setup made me feel unhappy and overwhelmed. While Willie and his parents seemed happy, I felt like my responsibilities had only increased. One day while cleaning, my father-in-law approached me with an awkward request. He asked, "Patricia, could you help with some money?" I was confused, so I asked him to explain. He said he found it hard to ask Willie for money, adding Willie has worked hard, and it's tough to ask him for financial help. This made the situation even more complicated, showing how unevenly chores and financial responsibilities were divided. Willie and I had previously agreed to share expenses like rent and other costs. However, when we went shopping, Willie often convinced me to pay for various things, including extras like alcohol, clothes, and accessories. When I was hesitant, he would act immaturely and accuse me of being stingy. Despite our financial disagreements, I found some comfort in the fact that Willie usually left me alone with my daily routine. However, things changed when we moved into his parents' house. Unlike Willie, his mother constantly disrupted my work from home. She often insisted that I focus on household chores rather than my job, and would even come into my room and pull on my clothes, making it hard for me to concentrate. Feeling frustrated, I talked to Willie about it, expecting him to side with his mother. To my surprise, he listened and promised to talk to her about the interruptions. I hoped we could find a solution that worked for both of us. However, Willie's idea of a solution was quite different from mine. He suggested moving me to the annex, a separate part of their property, which felt more like creating a greater distance rather than resolving the issue. One day, I jokingly asked Willie if I could demolish the annex and build a new house there. To my surprise, he casually replied, "You can even demolish it and build a new house if you want." This offhand comment opened up new possibilities for our living situation, hinting at more independence than I had expected. Taking Willie's casual comment to heart, I started remodeling the annex to make it my own. I cleaned, renovated, and changed the wallpaper, putting a lot of effort into making the space comfortable for myself. However, I noticed that Willie never came to check on the progress. It became clear that he had no intention of moving into the remodeled annex with me. This realization hit me hard. I felt like an outsider in the family. There were times when I was alone at home while Willie and his parents went out for meals or events, often organized by his mother. It seemed like these outings were planned to exclude me, maybe even to push me away. Even with these challenges, Willie had given me full freedom with the annex, so I took the chance to make it truly my own. I threw myself into DIY projects, adding shelves and personalizing every corner. Interestingly, after I moved into the annex, neither Willie nor his parents ever visited. Even though they must have known about the changes, they showed no interest in what I was doing, making me feel even more like I was no longer part of the family. Living away from the main house and without Willie's mother constantly around, I started to enjoy my new independence. It felt almost like living alone, which was surprisingly freeing. I appreciated that being in the annex kept her from interfering with my work. During the renovation, I installed new locks and made sure the annex was secure, making it my personal retreat. I made sure that no one, including Willie or his parents, could enter without my permission. This newfound privacy made me wonder if this separation might actually be a blessing. However, it seemed my mother-in-law noticed my growing distance and wasn't going to let me find peace easily. Unable to put up with her behavior any longer, I found myself unsure about what to do next. As I settled into the renovated annex, her attempts to drive me away became more obvious. She started with small annoyances, like leaving trash in front of my annex instead of at the collection site. Sometimes she would host barbecues in the garden and deliberately leave me out, making sure the smell of the grilled meat reached my space. Despite her attempts to push me out, I couldn't help but find her efforts amusing. One day, she called me to the main house, claiming she had leftover meat and potatoes for me. Suspecting there was more to her invitation, I went over. When I arrived, she was alone in the living room and dramatically placed a divorce paper on the table. It was clear that her real intention was to force me into signing the document, knowing Willie would agree to whatever she wanted. With a smug look, she said, "Isn't it time you gave up? There's no reason for you and Willie to stay married. Get out, you freeloading unemployed woman." Her audacity shocked me, but it only strengthened my resolve. Thrilled at the chance for freedom, I eagerly grabbed the divorce paper and said, "I'm going to the city court right now." "Thank you so much." My mother-in-law, expecting me to resist, was stunned by my unexpected eagerness. After filing the divorce papers at the city court, I quickly packed my things. I went to inform Willie's mother that the divorce was finalized. I told her I would leave the renovated cabin as it was and that she could do with it as she pleased. My positive attitude about leaving seemed to surprise her, even though she wished me luck as I left. When Willie and his father saw I was really leaving, they were concerned and asked, "Are you going? What will we do without Patricia?" I smiled and thanked them for letting me use the cabin. I explained that, since we were now divorced, it was time for me to move on. As I packed up my things, I moved into a luxury apartment I had been planning for some time. Soon after I settled into my new place, my mother-in-law called. She sounded awkward as she began, "Patricia." I cheerfully answered and asked, "What's up? How's everything with the cabin?" She switched to a more serious tone, talking about finances. She mentioned that Willie had told her I was giving his father $5,000 a month. I confirmed this and told her that despite her earlier belief that I was an unemployed freeloader, I was actually gainfully employed. Her surprise was clear. She had thought I had quit my job. I quickly set the record straight, telling my mother-in-law that I hadn't just left my old job. I had actually become the president of a new company. This company was leading the way in remote work systems, and she seemed both disbelieving and confused. It hit me that Willie, too, seemed unaware of my professional success, showing just how distant we had become, both physically and in how we saw each other. It was clear he never fully embraced his role as a husband since moving in with his parents. Then she asked about my earnings, wondering if my new role had increased my income. I casually mentioned that I was making about $3 million. I exaggerated a bit to avoid getting into the details of my actual earnings. Seizing on this, she asked, "With that much money, could you lend us some? Your father-in-law was laid off and kept it hidden. We've been managing with the $5,000 you've been giving us, but neither Willie nor I knew about his job loss." This explained a previous conversation with my father-in-law, where he said it was hard to ask his son for money. I realized now that his earlier comments were likely a tactic to get financial support from me, assuming my new job meant I had a lot of money. This move, though clever, made the financial expectations of Willie's family clearer and how they viewed me. At our old company, they cleverly managed to get $5,000 a month from me, claiming it was for shared expenses. I didn't mind much at the time because it let me live peacefully in the quiet cabin. But now, being divorced from Willie, I had no reason to stay connected to his family. When I mentioned this, my mother-in-law urgently begged me, saying, "That's not true. To me and Willie, you're still family. Please come back." I immediately declined, knowing I would only be used again. Returning to Willie offered no advantages. We were now strangers, and it felt awkward for them to still consider me family when they had pushed me away. I'm really enjoying my life on my own now. It feels much like when I was married and mostly living alone. Except now I spend money on myself and don't have $5,000 siphoned off every month. I prefer this new life. I ended the call with a firm goodbye, surprised they thought I'd come back. My mother-in-law's plea seemed like a last-ditch effort. Willie's salary wasn't great, and he often avoided responsibilities, saying, "I can't do it," and passing tasks to others. This made him unreliable both personally and professionally. With his father laid off and his mother a housewife, they couldn't keep up with the large house and had to sell it. Now, all three of them are living in the cabin I renovated. It's perfect for one person but likely cramped for three. Since then, I haven't thought much about them. I'm enjoying my life peacefully, relishing the solitude and freedom that come with my new independence.